have a map here. I wish I had had this blown up. You can't see it from here, and I can't remember it well enough to tell you, but very briefly, we started in Tehran. Tehran's a relatively new city. Tehran's basically a 20th century city. You know, you can dig back and discover that there was a rural village there once, but Tehran is a modern invention. And we then went up to the Caspian Sea. Now, we thought we were going to see something special about the sea. We were there, and it was quite dreary. But what's so interesting is that part of the world, Iran, is the only place where it rains, which it does most of the time. And Iranians go there to feel the rain, so that you get restaurants advertising that the rain comes in. And those are the ones that people visit. So we're winding up the window on the van, and everybody else, you can see them with their yes, with their hands outside, their faces up. It's wacky. We then came back down through an area where the assassins, which were an early group who were fighting off everybody by assassinating them. There's some modern day, all too familiar story that have to do with that. But then over into Zoroastrian country, we wanted, the Kurds are over here by Iraq, and we actually had, I worked really hard on this. I'd gotten them to agree that we would put down our van and the driver and the guide, and we would get in a Jeep with a Kurd, and we would have a household stay and make a little circle through the Kurdistan part of Iraq. And it took me months to get them to agree about that. And the week before we take off, some bastard from Iraq goes and shoots somebody across the border. And of course, that took care of that part. So they were relieved. I was unhappy. So we didn't get over there, but we got to a part of this part, which is some of the breadbasket of Iran, and to a couple of the towns where clearly Kurds are visiting because they're still wearing their familiar garb. So while we didn't get into that part, we became really quite close. We then got down into this sort of really desert-like kind of area, but it's where the oil fields are. Shush and Shustar have incredible, they've developed incredible ways of moving water around, which were designed and built by Romans who had been captured by Iranians and taken back to Iran a couple thousand years ago, and it's still marvelously the waterways. We got down, there was a bad earthquake down in this area of Iran that took out one of the mud cities that was really built up. And so but we saw a lesser one of those mud cities there, and then came up into the desert. This is where we did get to go, and I can tell you that there is nothing to be seen but sand forever. It was great. And then some of the highlight cities, Shiraz and Isfahan. I have to tell you, Chris thought he was going to just leave me there in Isfahan because you just can't. I mean, this is, you can look at these photos after, this is the dome of one of the mosques, and Isfahan, and I don't, you may or may not be able to see that light that's coming down. The engineering of that was done in such a way that no matter where the sun went over the arc, the band of that light always points to Mecca.
Wow.
I mean, it just, and so, I mean, there were just these stunning things every place. We also figured out, because people don't sit mostly on chairs, they sit on things on the floor. It's the reason the ceilings are so well done, because people weren't appreciating so much stuff on walls. You know, they were sitting back talking to one another, and they looked that way. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, I mean, this is another ceiling. Just amazing. But this is reason, if there's no other reason to go to Iran, this is the most spectacular public square on earth. I can't believe there's another one. It's second in size to Tiananmen Square, but where Tiananmen Square is sterile, this one is full of life, and it's full of history, and it's magical. During the day, there's a series of fountains that start at one end, and then there'll be a walkway to go in another fountain, another group with fountains in, another walkway, another thing of water, a walkway. There are shops all around. There are families having picnic and kids doing somersaults on the green. As you can see, this one was taken at night. It's lighted. Just beautiful. And I know for those of us who don't hear it all the time, sometimes the call from the minaret is annoying, but it was just so beautiful in the space, just absolutely gorgeous. So anyway,
Where was that?
this is Isfahan. Isfahan. So this is, you know, this is sort of what it was. If
I presume you got Persepolis.
Yes.
yes,
Persepolis.
Yes, Persepolis is spectacular, but it is, it does not have currently the
No.
life that Isfahan has. I mean, Isfahan, 800 years later, had an advantage in that regard, because these things that you're seeing from Isfahan, there's several pictures. We're all about 1600, so they're just 400 years old instead of 1200.
so let's see. Do you have to wear a scarf? Yes, you have to wear a scarf. No big deal. I took 3 outfits. This is one of them. And I wore this one in the more conservative towns. I had one that's red, a deep red, and I had a scarf with red roses in it. You can, there's this gal. You can see, I mean, she has a scarf on, but it's, you know, it's white with red roses. Mine was black with red roses.
Was it hot?
I did not, see, I wore the scarf and nobody objected like this. If you wore your scarf, we tried, there's videos telling you how to put on one of these bloody things. This size that won't work with it, but it wraps around and you can do it. I found that way hot because it didn't allow space here, and so it would have been hot, but I wasn't particularly hot.
And what month of the year were you there?
Yes, we were there in October, so, and I wouldn't advise, I mean, one of the huge problems Iran has and will have, it's really scary, is water. In part of this trip, we went by their reservoirs, and they are down. There are places on my map where I'd fuss because, I don't know why she didn't just tell me, wanted to go by the wildlife refuge. So the day we were supposed to do this, of course, I was ready. I told the guide, you know, it wasn't put on the schedule, and I talked about it, and he said, right. So we got to it. We were going by, and he said, this is why. And it's right, the lake completely gone, completely dry. I mean, there are no, it was a pathway for migrating birds, and it was described even a half a dozen years earlier in my guidebook as being just a luscious place. So they're having terrible, terrible water problems, and that's one of the pities of Isfahan. Isfahan it's a big city, but it's right sort of on the edge of desert, and they've put a whole lot of, after the Iran-Iraq war was just tremendous. It affected the nation's view of itself and made it more insular than even all the other stuff that's happened to it has made it. But part of that was because Isfahan is in the middle of the country. They moved a lot of the manufacturing into the middle of the country. The manufacturing takes a lot of water. And so the beautiful rivers that went by, if you saw the bridges in Isfahan, they're no longer, there's no water there. So there's no beautiful reflection anymore.
That was the heart of the city.
So what is the best time of year to go?
Well, I do think that spring or fall are the best time of years. I would not go for the heat of summer. And the other thing we did, which is worth doing, is find out when Ramadan is. Yeah, you don't want to be there when everybody's cranky because they haven't eaten all day, and the stores are closed, and the other one you want to miss, can you remember? I'll tell you which one. And I just,
Yeah,
Which is the other
yeah,
religious occurrence.
right. That one we just missed by a few days. You can't really see it in here. Well, you can if you look at this closely. There's a picture, if you take a look at this afterwards, both of the Ayatollah and of the president, Rouhani, on the two sides of the mosque here, and the night that was our last night there finally was the beginning of a stage that was going to be set up for the holiday. And so we would have, we probably, it's a Shiite country, this is their major Shiite holiday, we probably would have stayed home for it.